Hi, I'm Jenny Roan.
And I'm Karen James, and we're here at the Science Online Conference in North Carolina, learning about all kinds of amazing science activities and projects that take place online.
It's a really good place to be for what we're doing right now, because we're really interested in female scientists and why there are so few female scientists on TV, on radio, talking heads. Where are they? Where's the female Neil deGrasse Tyson? Where's the female Brian Cox?
Where is the female David Attenborough?
So what's the deal?
And it's kind of an extension of where are the women in science, at least in the upper echelons, in the high positions in science as a career. This is a subset of that question, or extension of that question. Why aren't they presenting science on TV? Sometimes they would be scientists who would then become presenters, or scientist presenters, like Brian Cox is a good example, or people who were never even maybe scientists to start with, like David Attenborough, but who just love science. And none of them are there. None of them are on television. And yet here we are at a conference where we've heard wonderful, eloquent women speakers from science backgrounds and from non-science backgrounds talking about their work, inspiring people. Meg Lohman last night just made me, just enthusiastic again about what I do. And she could be the female David Attenborough. But she herself was just telling me that actually when she and her team were talking about who should do a voiceover for a film they're making for their new science center, they immediately started asking the question, who should we get? And they listed all men.
Oh, gosh.
And even she did that and recognized herself doing that later. She said, and then somebody in the room said, why don't you do it, Meg? And she went, oh yeah. Why don't I do it? Why did we do that? And she did it to herself. And so it's a whole society thing. It's not men's fault. It's not necessarily women's fault. We're not used to seeing women presenting on TV, especially science.
So we really hope you enjoy these short films as much as we've enjoyed making them. Well, I'm here with Dr. Holly Bick from the University of New Hampshire, the Hubbard Center for Genome Studies. I'm really excited to meet you because I've never met anyone who works on the research that you do. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Right, so we're using high throughput sequencing techniques, new genetic technologies such as 454 and Illumina, to study the biodiversity of marine myofauna. So myofauna.
Wait, what's myofauna?
Myofauna are things like nematode worms, protists, fungi, anything which you can't see with the naked eye, but are present in millions and millions of individuals in marine sediment.
Does this include bacteria?
No, it doesn't include bacteria. So we're talking about eukaryotes, things with a nucleus.
So the animal kingdom.
Yes.
So why?
Why? Well, because no one else is. These things are really important. They are very important in nutrient turnover in marine sediments. They're very abundant, and there are a lot of species in marine ecosystems and everywhere in marine ecosystems. So from the deep sea all the way up to intertidal sediments.
So when you say they're important, you mean they actually help the environment? They help enrich the sea? They help other animals?
They are the basis of ecosystem function. So without nematodes, you wouldn't have fish, you wouldn't have seabirds, you wouldn't have whales. Essentially, it's just going to the beach, taking a tablespoon of sediment and sequencing whatever's present in there.
Well, the whole mess. How do you distinguish what from what?
So we actually just compare the sequences to online sequence databases because there's a very good repository of information that's already out there. So we're taking advantage of this, and we can match up the genes which we get to other genes which people have already sequenced, and then we can start putting names on these sequences which we get.
Maybe you'll find something new, right?
Yes,
I mean,
and that does happen. Yeah, we have a lot of things which don't match to anything. So it's a good way as well to highlight areas where maybe we do need more taxonomy or we do need more investigation. Sites which no one's looked at and might contain a high proportion of unknown species.
Do you get to name them?
Unfortunately, no. I'm not a taxonomist.
It's too bad.
You can't name them after yourself anyway.
So I'm really interested to know how you got into science and what's it like being a woman in this field, and why did you want to go into science?
Personally, I just love the process of discovery. I love being in the lab and finding out information which no one on Earth possibly knows or has known ever. So it's really exciting.
Do you have any female role models in your department or just some of that you've encountered in your studies that have really inspired you?
We have some really inspirational female faculty at UNH, and they give seminars occasionally, and it's really interesting just to go and listen and hear about what their experiences have been. But they have had very different experiences than I'm having, because when they entered the workforce, there were no women almost. And
so it's getting better.
It's getting better, slowly. But most of the scientists which I read about and the research I follow on is male scientists.
PhDs, for example, in biology tend to be 50-50 men and women, and it's been like that for decades. Still we're having this problem at the top, getting professors. Do you think there's a solution? Do you know what the problem is?
I mean,
these brilliant ideas.
Just from going from PhD to postdoc, the workload's increased exponentially, and I've been told it doesn't get any easier the higher up you get in academia. So it's hard. I mean, it's hard to balance my life at the moment, which is relatively simple, never mind thinking about things which are going to come later, with even more work, presumably later on.
So it's an uphill struggle.
It is an uphill struggle.
But it looks like you really want it.
Yes, I'm willing to fight.
I'm here with Olivia Koski, who is an engineer at a major aerospace company in the United States. And she works on big lasers. So I'm really interested in this. So tell us, why do we need big lasers?
Well, you need big, powerful lasers for a lot of different things. Lasers can be used for almost anything. They can be used for sensing. You can take pictures with lasers. For example, you can take a picture of a car and create a three-dimensional image from miles away with a laser. And so I build the source lasers. I make the lasers that go into the system that can do really cool things. You can measure, atmospheric chemicals, chemistry. You can do research. You can do basically anything you can imagine. You can do with lasers.
Wow.
And so yeah.
But it's bigger. So, for example, in the example you gave for the car, if you had a bigger laser, could you do it from further away?
Yes. So lasers don't propagate that well through the atmosphere, actually, and so as the laser goes through the air, it sort of loses some power, and so the more power you have, the better off you are. You can also build systems that correct for the aberrations that the atmosphere puts on the laser, but the better quality, higher power laser you have at the source, the better off you're going to be.
How did you get into this? When you were a little girl, did you see yourself making big lasers? Or how did this come about?
I didn't. I had no idea that I would be doing this type of work, but it's awesome work. It's so much fun. If I had known this job was possible, I probably would have been excited about it as a kid. Like, who doesn't want to make giant lasers for a living? I studied physics in college, and I kind of just fell into it. I met some people who were working on laser research, and I realized that I really love being in the lab. So I love learning about math and physics, but I also want to apply that research. So I could never be a theorist. I want to apply my knowledge, and I want to be in a lab, and I want to be building things in a lab. So I really love building things, and so being a laser researcher is great because you get to build cool things.
Are there a lot of men where you work? Would you say it's pretty macho?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost exclusively men. In college, I was probably one, in a class of about 30 people, there were probably 2 or 3 women in my physics classes.
Didn't put you off?
No, it was great. Research environments and the academic environments are very challenging and very rigorous, and not the most friendly or supportive environments, and which maybe some people need more. I don't think females necessarily need more support, but maybe, I don't know. It's like without going into stereotypes. Like, I think women. I mean, as a person, as a woman, whatever. I like to connect to people, and I like to develop relationships. I think a lot of physics people maybe they're just interested and obsessed with their work, which is fine because I'm interested and obsessed with physics too, but I'm also interested in relationships. But I have no idea.
I'm here with Pascal Lane. She's a professor at the University of Nebraska Medical Center, and she's interested in kidneys. She's a doctor, and we're here to learn more about what you do.
Well, I get to do a lot of different things. I am specifically a pediatric nephrologist, so I diagnose and treat children with kidney diseases. I got interested in the impact of puberty on the kidney, in diabetes in particular, but it seems to be a universal phenomenon that all kidney diseases get worse around the time of puberty, and most kidney diseases are worse in men than in women. So that suggested to me that there was some role for sex steroids, and so I got interested in looking at the role of sex in progression of various kidney diseases as well.
Did you always think you were going to be doing research? I mean, you went into medical school, but did you have in the back of your mind you wanted to be a scientist and you wanted to study things and not just treat things?
Yes, I did. I pretty much knew from day one I wanted to do academia. Once I got into medical school and saw what academic medicine was all about, I was like, oh gosh, I really hope I'm good enough to do this. Now, unfortunately, one of the other things I'm looking at and doing a project on is why women aren't progressing in academic medicine the way they should. If you look at the percentage of MDs who are women, there was a pretty steady rise from the late 60s up until about 5 years ago when we became 49% of the graduating medical school classes. There's going to be a lag in those women getting into academia because you have to have residency and or fellowship and other training. And the number of assistant professors is rising, but certainly not as fast as we rose through those ranks. The percentage of tenured full professors who are women, I mean, it's pitiful. We are just not progressing the way we should. It's not the pipeline. There are plenty of women in the pipeline. It's other factors, and I think we really need to address those.
Do you have some ideas what those factors are? What are the holes in the pipeline?
I think the pipeline leaks because a lot of women who do go into various aspects of academic medicine, they get loaded down with teaching and with committee work that ends up not being the route to promotion.
You mean that more than men do?
More than men do. And I think some of that is because, we want to have women, doing some of these things. And if you're the only woman in your department or section, then you get stuck with some of that sort of thing. And I think some of it is a lack of expectation that women are going to do that stuff. It's also very possible to have a family and make it up through the ranks in academic medicine. My own kids are 18 and 23, so I've managed to do this while successfully raising them, it appears. And the other thing is I think we have to, what's the right word? Point out to, I was going to say embarrass, but we'll just say point out to various academic institutions that this is really unacceptable, that there are women in the pipeline. They need to be bringing them along and encouraging them and putting them into professorships, section chiefs, getting them to the point where they can become chairmen and deans and other leadership positions. That it's crazy if they don't. And one of my other projects right now is looking at some sort of grading system where we can actually say your institution has an A for having women in medical leadership and yours is failing, and hopefully, ultimately embarrass various medical schools into doing something about this.